Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me this wonderful December evening or morning, whatever time of day it is in your time zone. So I'd like just to start off by saying happy holidays. Whatever your tradition is or your culture. And this is just such a wonderful time of year. A time of year to go inward, to become quiet, to think about what's really meaningful and what really matters to you. I love this time when we can all take a little bit of a break from work, from our busy schedules, and whether that means making a fire and just spending some more time sipping tea, going inward, reading our favorite spiritual book, reflecting upon our life. For those of us in the northern hemisphere, the days are getting quite short here. I think I heard on the radio today that the length of the day today was 9 hours. That's quite a short day from sunrise to sunset. And so when the days are short and it gets dark, then there's more time for us to be silent. There's more time for us to go inward. And just to deeply reflect, what is it that our life is about? And so it's a wonderful time of year. I found myself a little bit frustrated this last weekend. I had planned on taking the family and going on a climbing trip, going out into the desert. But instead we got, a big snowstorm. Got a foot of snow here in Colorado. And so there was a lot of time for me just to hang out and be quiet, not to climb any mountains, but to instead, just curl up on the couch, next to the fire and just reading some book, doing some writing, and reflecting upon life. And so it was kind of nice. Of course, there was that part of me that wanted to go climbing and go out and climb mountains, but it's hard to argue with the weather. So anyways, I'd just like to welcome everyone tonight and to say happy holidays, whether you're Jewish or Christian or, celebrating just the solstice, the winter solstice. I think it's coming up here on the 19th or 20th or 21st, one of these days, quite soon, we're going to have the shortest day of the year. And so I encourage you just to spend some time, in silence, going inward and just reflecting upon this last year and perhaps even reflecting upon what you'd like for this next new year. What changes you want to make in your life? What things you want to let go of from this previous year? And so it can be a powerful time of year, to do this type of work. I think it's really supported right now. So anyways, the title of tonight's webcast, and this is an ongoing monthly webcast. The title for tonight is Choosing Happiness. Choosing Happiness. And so it's a funny thing, when I speak with my wife sometimes, she says, what do you do for fun? What makes you happy? Because most of my friends, they like to climb mountains, they like to ski and snowboard, they like to, go to big music festivals and chase these really, exciting moments. Go see the latest band or the latest reggae show or whatever it is. I have all kinds of friends who do all kinds of different things. And my wife gets confused because she says, Craig, I never see you get that excited about anything. And then she pauses for a moment, but then she says, oh yes, you get excited about meditation. You get excited about going on retreats. And I always smile because, to me, excitement isn't the right word. Fun isn't the right word. But happiness is the right word. And so that can be a little bit of a paradox or a little bit ironic for most people, because most people think of, chasing excitement, getting emotionally excited about things. And of course, there's nothing wrong with getting emotionally excited about things. It can be fun to get emotionally excited about things. It can be healthy to get emotionally excited about things. But when we do get emotionally excited about things, there's something that happens when we get excited. We get really excited, of course, and then the excitement fades. It drops. We can have great expectations or an agenda for, something to go a certain way. For example, like my climbing trip this last weekend, I started to get semi-excited. I know my wife was getting quite excited. If we chase excitement in this way, we can really be let down. It can lead to a great deal of suffering. If our whole life and our whole sense of identity revolves around having fun and being excited, chances are we're going to be let down. But there can be this deeper level of happiness that can come forward. It really has nothing to do with excitement. It really has nothing to do with our emotions, getting all worked up, over something that we cannot control. And because we find that's what's true in life is that, all these things that we chase after, whether it's a new boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife or a new job or the new sports car or this or that, most of these things are out of the reach of our control. And by that, I mean, we may get, the new boyfriend or girlfriend, but what we'll find is they will only temporarily make us happy. In fact, they really don't make us happy at all. I think we're just choosing to be happy because we're choosing to see their beauty. We're choosing to see their divinity. We're choosing to temporarily let go of our judgment of them. We're choosing to temporarily let go of our wounded nature and our neurotic sense of self and choosing to see them for what they are, which is a divine being just like you or me. But when this state of consciousness, if it's not sustained through our heart, if we're not actively choosing to see our partner new and fresh each day, if we're not choosing, say, in the example of buying a new car, to see the beauty and the wonder and the awesomeness of our new Mercedes-Benz or Subaru Outback or whatever it is we just recently purchased. If we just take it for granted, which is something that our mind tends to do, then we will be back in a state of laziness or unhappiness or inertia. And so choosing happiness, choosing to be happy in this world, it requires a number of different things. It very much requires that we let go of our egoic walls, that we let go of our definitions of whatever it is we are seeing and or experiencing. And so, say for example, again, if we go back to the experience of falling in love, falling in love for most people, it has a beginning and it has an end. It normally lasts between 6 weeks and 3 months. From a psychological perspective, most people, that they fall in love for a period of time, 6 weeks to 3 months. And then after that 3 months, that sense of seeing someone as new, as fresh, as beautiful, as divine begins to fade, and we go back to our old way of seeing, our old way of viewing the world, which is based in judgment, based in fear, based in ignorance, and also based in some sort of egoic expectation that I need you to behave a certain way for me to make me feel happy. And again, as soon as you fall back into this old mental way of being, this old egoic way of being, you'll feel unhappy. Because the nature of the mind is to be unsatisfied. The nature of the mind is always seeking, always grasping, always wanting, always desiring something new. And so in order to choose happiness, the major thing we need to do differently is to begin to see and experience life through the goodness, the openness, the freshness, the aliveness of our heart. And so, for example, when you go outside, like last night, I walked outside after work, and it had snowed about 8 inches. From the time I set foot in my office till the time I walked outside at night, it snowed about 8 inches. And when I walked outside at night, I stood there in awe, of this wonderful blanket of snow that had covered the ground, the cars, the building. There was even this Christmas tree outside my work, and it was decorated with lights. The sky was kind of lit up in orange, and from the lights of the city reflecting off the snow. This Christmas tree, it just looked absolutely spectacular. It looked so beautiful, so divine. The streets were glistening with light, with snow. Everywhere around was just covered in this silent innocence. Quite beautiful to see and experience life this way. Now, I was just meeting with someone earlier today, and they came into my office. And when you live in Colorado, sometimes in the winter, it can be, how should I say this? It can almost be a matter of life and death every time you get in a car. But for those of us who are adventurous and used to it, it's no big deal. If it snows a foot, you put your car in four-wheel drive, you drive snow, and, if you fly off the road and smash into a snowbank, hopefully you have a shovel in the back of your car, you dig yourself out, and, you get back in the car and you drive to work. For me, I've wrecked numerous times. I mean, more times than I can remember, in the snowbanks here. It's just a way of life. It's not like New York City where there's 9 million people on the road or, fighting for a lane in traffic. There's lots of space, there's lots of room, but there's lots of snow. But, getting back to, what I was trying to say a couple minutes ago is I was meeting with a client, and, she had this, we got closer to the end of our session. Normally people are feeling really open, really lighthearted after the end of, speaking together and, in my office. But I noticed she was getting quite nervous. I said, what are you getting so nervous about? She said, oh, I have to get back in my car. I have to go out and drive in that snow again. Drive on the slushy roads. And see, that's kind of how our mind thinks. It gets nervous about things before they even happen. It projects fear into the future. We start thinking about things that we need to be afraid of. This is the way the mind sees life. And I could even admit, from a mental perspective, I've kind of had enough of snow. To be real honest, if I'm going to be honest about my mental perspective. I've lived in Colorado for 20 years, and the snow it can be tough. But when I just come into my heart and experience the snow, it is absolutely beautiful, absolutely wonderful, completely divine. It's just like walking out into this world, and there's this just beauty everywhere. Just makes everything white and fresh. And so if we're going to speak about choosing happiness, a lot of this has to do with, from what perspective are we going to see and experience life? Are we going to see and experience life from the openness of our heart? Or are we going to see and experience life through the lens of our egoic nature? And if your egoic nature is pretty, how shall I say this? Pretty stubborn, pretty entrenched, if we're living in a place of fear, if we have huge unhealed wounds within us, and we may have to use, some of our willpower to choose, to actively choose, to consciously choose not to go down the road of our mind, not to go down the road of fear, not to go down the road of despair. And so in a sense, we almost might have to, stand guard, with awareness, have like a vigilance. Often, if any of you have met with Gangaji or her husband Eli, they speak about having a vigilance in reference to our mind, how we relate to our mind, which thoughts we believe, which we let go. And so if you are a person who's naturally, I'll say this differently, if you are a person who is conditioned into being anxious, conditioned into being sad, conditioned into being negative, you may have to be vigilant about choosing to be positive, choosing to come into your heart and to see and experience life from your heart instead of seeing and experiencing life from your egoic way of being. And I oftentimes, Gangaji will call it a vigilance. I call it a gentle discipline. It's a gentle discipline of choosing which thoughts to believe, which to let go. This last month when there was the terrorist attacks in Paris, and then there was the ones in San Bernardino, California. And I saw there was this part of me that just kept wanting to watch the news, kept wanting to be informed. I noticed the more news I watched, the more anxious I became, the more stressful I became, the more I began to feel as if the world was not a good place. I said, well, boy, I don't want to live in this way. If I walk outside my home, I live in this quiet little mountain town, I don't want to think about terrorists. I don't want to think about the Fox News anchor who's telling everyone they need to get guns and carry guns around and think about shooting people. That's a whole dream world. It's a whole world of craziness. So I had to choose. Okay, I'm going to stop watching the news. Instead, I'm going to go outside and look at the snow, look at the trees. I'm going to go outside and look at the beautiful stars. I'm going to roll around on the ground and play with my baby. I'm going to take my dog on a walk. If we want to be happy, we have to walk in the direction of happiness. We have to walk away from the things which make us unhappy. If we listen to the news each night, you're going to spend a half hour, an hour, however long the news program is, listening to bad news. Because isn't that what the news is, the nightly news? The stories of people being beheaded, stories of refugees fleeing their war-torn country, stories of Donald Trump talking about how we need to get rid of Muslims or closing the borders or whatever it is. All this fear and sadness and despair. And so our consciousness, it gets filled up with all of this. And the more we fill it up with this, the more we suffer, the more we'll feel pain. If you want to be happy, you need to walk towards happiness. There's a lot of teachings these days about raising our frequency, raising our vibration. It's hard to have a lighthearted, wonderful, vibrant vibration listening to news about terrorist attacks, about people shooting each other in the streets, about buying guns and workplace violence. It's much easier to be happy when we take our dog on a walk, when we walk out in nature, when we choose not to think, just to simply not think. What if I come home from work at night, look up at the stars, and experience the awe and beauty of the stars? What if I come home from work and experience the awe and beauty and radiance of my partner, of my beloved? What if I come home from work and sit in silent meditation? These are the types of things which will raise our vibration. And what if I come home and listen to, some spiritual songs, some spiritual bhajans, or listen to some Christmas carols, whatever it may be? These types of things, they uplift our heart. They provide a deep sense of happiness. Oftentimes when, like I was saying earlier in the beginning, when we think about happiness, we think, oh, what can I do that's fun and is exciting? And that kind of happiness tends to be, I'll call it immature, for lack of better words. By immature, I mean it just lacks depth. It lacks depth. But what can create a deep sense of happiness, a mature sense of happiness, is spending time experiencing our own divinity, the divinity of this world, the divinity of our cat or dog or partner, the divinity of picking up a little baby and looking into his or her eyes and just seeing his beauty, seeing his divinity, seeing his innocence, and allowing our innocence to be awakened, to be reflected back to us. And these are the types of things that provide a deep level of happiness, a deep level of joy. And again, it may not be the same kind of happiness that's experienced when we get all the Christmas or Hanukkah presents or Festivus presents, if you celebrate Festivus like George Costanza's father did, whatever his name was from Seinfeld. When we get all these presents, yes, we may experience short-term excitement, but true happiness comes through us coming into our heart and living through our heart, through feeling and directly experiencing our radiance, our divinity, and the radiance and the divinity all around us. And Jesus' teaching was, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else will be given to thee. He said the kingdom of heaven is within. It's within us. Can we open to this kingdom? Can we open to this absolute beauty, this absolute divinity? Can we open to the goodness and wonder of our heart? Maybe that means we turn the TV off. Excuse me. Maybe it means we turn off the nightly news. Maybe it means we stop looking for happiness in all the wrong places. I have friends, they still go to the bar looking for happiness. But do we ever truly find happiness there? We may find a good time for the evening. We may have a beer with a friend, if we're into that type of thing. We may see beautiful people at the bar. We may engage in some fun, lighthearted conversations. But most people who are truly happy, they're not spending their nights at the bar. They're not spending their nights getting inebriated. Most people who are truly happy are spending their nights, spending their days, spending their time in deep communion with themselves, with their own true nature, and exploring this true nature and the expression of this true nature with those around them, and sharing in this joy with those around them. You're connecting in a deep, meaningful, and heartfelt way. So earlier this week, I did some writing on the act of prayer. And so often when people, they think of prayer, they think of, sitting down on their meditation cushion at the end of the yoga class and asking God for something. God, can you please bring me a new girlfriend? Can you please bring me a new husband? Can you please get me a new job? And of course, that could be one level of prayer, just opening up and asking God for something. But what prayer really means is prayer is an act of communion, uniting, becoming one with life, with this greater divinity, with this greater innocence, with this greater beauty, with this greater wonder. And so for people who are truly happy, they live a life of prayer. And again, not sitting begging God, God, will you please give me this thing which I desire? Not that. But they're sitting, they're living in communion, in union with God, in connection with God, in connection with the divine. And they're living this deep connection with others. Experiencing this wonderful intimacy with life. So prayer, it's a state of being, a state of communion, a state of oneness and unity, a state of inseparability from everything around you. The trees, the sky, the sun, the moon, the people you work with, the people you're sitting in traffic with. And so the invitation here is, can we continue to open to this? Now, if we find ourselves in our mind, lost in whatever our egoic dream is, our egoic samsara, we will feel tight and tense in our body. We will be suffering. We'll be having neurotic thoughts. We'll be judgmental or hateful or angry or divisive. And so if we're feeling any of these things within us, the invitation is to simply drop those. To say, no, I'm choosing to live in a different way. I'm choosing to put on some spiritual music, some uplifting music. I'm choosing to turn the radio on and turn it up loud and to allow whatever's within me just to fall away. I'm choosing to go to a yoga class and shake off this heaviness of emotion, this heaviness of judgment, this heaviness of thought, whatever it is that I'm struggling with. I'm choosing to raise my vibration. I'm choosing to do something which makes me feel joyous, which makes me feel happy, which makes me feel nurtured and loved. I'm choosing to do something which is uplifting. And as I raise my frequency, as I raise my vibration, my thoughts begin to change. My experience begins to change. I begin to smile. I begin to laugh. I may even begin to cry as I release some painful or difficult emotions. And I begin to see life for what it is, this incredible mystery. And so, choosing happiness. And for those of you who have an egoic mind, which is loud, which is obnoxious, which is difficult, choosing happiness oftentimes means shifting your attention to that which brings you joy. Which makes you feel a sense of peace, a sense of ease, a sense of upliftment. Sometimes it means visiting a holy place, a church, a synagogue, a mosque, your yoga studio, your Dharma center. And as you walk into the building, choosing to merge with a vibrant presence, which is living in that holy temple. And for those of you who have struggled with the dogma of different churches or religions, I'm not asking you to align with the dogma. I'm asking you to align with the alive presence which is in a holy place. If you would like to be uplifted. I know very little about the Muslim religion. I know very little about Islam. But I've been in 2 different mosques. And as soon as I opened the door, I felt this warm and very alive, inviting presence. When I walk into a cathedral, I feel a very warm and heavenly presence. When I go into a synagogue, it opens my heart. I feel a presence of light. And I sit down and I continue to open to it and allow it to uplift me. I allow it to take away. As Jesus say, I'm here to take away the sins of the world. By that, I think he just means he's here to take away our struggles. When I walk into a church, it's easy to just give the struggles over to God, give it over to the act of alive presence, which is filling this space. I think a lot of times people come into my office and they see it in a similar way. They come into my office and they offer their struggles, not up to the human Craig, but up to the divinity, which is present in the room. It's a powerful thing that can happen in therapy is willing just to let go, willing to unload. And so part of choosing to be happy is, yes, shifting your attention to that which makes you happy, but also a willingness to let go of the things that do not serve us, the things that bring us down, the things that are difficult and painful, things we struggle with. It's funny, I was talking to someone earlier this week, and I was talking about in the past how I used to argue with my former wife. And sometimes there'd be like the moment in the day when we'd actually have the argument. The argument would last a total of maybe 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And then I would spend the next 2.5 days spinning the argument over and over again in my mind. And I thought, boy, this is quite silly. The argument is no longer happening. It has come and gone, and yet I've continued it in my mind. It led to a great deal of suffering, a great deal of pain. So choosing to be happy is choosing to place our attention on our heart, on our goodness, experience that which is good about us, about life, about this world, and choosing to let go of that which doesn't serve us. Choosing to, as my teacher Adyashanti says, to step into reality. And just to notice, what is reality? It's what's here all the time. It's what remains when we stop thinking. When I stop thinking about my argument, oh, then I'm in reality. I'm in this spacious, open room. I have a beautiful and innocent heart. She does too. But instead, so many of us, we just stay stuck in the dream world of our argument. And so we have to be willing to put our fight down, to drop the things which don't serve us. We have to choose actively. I will not think about this any longer. And if your mind is very neurotic, you must choose that I'm going to think about this thing over here. I'm going to put my attention onto something good, something uplifting. I'm going to read a spiritual book. I'm going to chant my mantra. I'm going to spin my prayer beads. I'm going to go to yoga class. I'm going to meet with my Sangha, or my spiritual friends. And so when I was reflecting about this, what does it truly mean to be happy? So a happy person, they normally experience all the divine qualities of reality, of their own true nature. They experience spaciousness and peace, a sense of bliss, vibrancy and aliveness, and a sense of empowerment. And I've spoke about the first two so far, so I thought I might speak about the third one, empowerment. If we don't have a clear sense of our own personal power, our own personal truth and strength, then we're going to get pushed around by life. It'll be impossible for us to be truly happy. Because someone who is truly happy, they're standing in their own autonomy. They're standing in their own power. And when the world throws tomatoes, they don't start crying. They don't get confused by the tomatoes. But how does one get to know their power? Power is a difficult journey. Because most of us are born in this world, these innocent little beings. And oftentimes, as a baby, well, we're in a sense, we're powerless. We're reliant upon our mother and father. And when our mother and father aren't there for us all the time, when they don't fully support us, when we desire to be an artist and they want us to be a lawyer, and when we grow up in schools and get forced into these institutions where we have to raise our hands to ask if we can go use the potty, where the teacher is seen as something bigger and better than us. We get confused about our own power. We begin to identify with our egoic nature, which is inherently insecure. And as soon as we identify with that egoic nature, we lose all power. And so the way to become empowered in life oftentimes comes through great struggle, through us facing adversity, facing difficulty, facing people who are telling us that we're no good and we're unworthy. And so power comes through you recognizing your innate value. despite what our parents have told us, despite what society has told us, despite what our teachers or our guru has told us. And by guru, I mean the unhealthy guru who has all the power and who's demanding that we worship him or her, that we bow at their lotus feet. We give them all our money. So whether it's the guru or the preacher or the politician or whoever it is, choosing to become empowered is choosing to say no to how others have defined us, is choosing to disagree with our wounded nature. And instead to choose to see our beauty, to see our divinity, and to actively honor it in the moment. And actively honoring it in the moment may mean if someone is taking advantage of us, we say, no, I will not let you take advantage of me. I will stand up for my truth. Even if we have to argue with someone. But when we argue, it's more just a sense of setting a boundary. We don't fully engage in the argument with them, because when we fully engage in the argument with someone, we're actually giving our power away and we're fighting for something that we're not sure that we fully believe in. But when we stand in our power, someone asks us to do something which we don't want to do, we simply say, no, I will not do that. We assert ourselves. We stand up for ourselves. We stand up for that childlike innocence within us. And we tell the other person, you will not walk all over me. I will not be a doormat. It's also staying in our power means we check in with our heart. We ask our heart, what is it that I really want? What is my life really about? And so back to the example of, say, if in our heart we want to be an artist, but our parent is telling us we need to go to law school. We say no to the law school. And we say yes to art school. We say yes to choosing to make art, to create art. Even if people tell us, hey, I hate your art, it's stupid. What is this? Or, whatever people would say about our art. People used to tell me, especially my kids, they'd say, Dad, you're a terrible cook. You don't know how to cook. And so inside I said, okay, maybe I just won't cook anymore. Yeah, I'll stop cooking. And people just told it to me over and over again. There's this funny story my daughter talks about when Daddy cooked a cucumber. I thought it was a zucchini. So she makes fun of me all the time. Oh, I don't want to eat Daddy's food because he cooks cucumbers, And of course, cucumber is something that goes on a salad. He cut it with a knife. You don't steam it. And so of course I can laugh in a humble way. But I noticed inside I started, anytime the idea of me cooking came up, I just kind of always let someone else do the cooking. Because I let others define me. I let them take my power away. In a sense, I gave them my power. But, a couple weeks ago, we were all joking about this at my house. And I said, okay, I want all you guys to shut up. And I'm going to cook dinner tonight. And I came into my heart. I thought about what I should cook. And I got all the vegetables and rice out. And cooked a wonderful meal. A wonderful meal for everyone. Spiced it wonderfully. It tasted good. Everyone was happy and smiling. But see, I had to choose to let go of my previous opinion. This opinion of myself that was given to me by my kids and by different people in my life who told me that I was no good at cooking. And so becoming empowered is saying no to that and choosing. I'm going to go for it despite what people have told me. I know it's a silly example. But see, our ego, it's built upon all these thoughts, beliefs, judgments And most of them are thoughts, beliefs, and judgments that other people have given to us about us. And so if we are going to live in a happy way, we have to know our own power, our own strength, our own autonomy. We must develop an inner stability based on the truth of our heart. And the truth of our heart is the direct experience of our divinity. The truth is, you are good. You are beautiful. You are innocent. You are spacious and vast and peaceful. The truth is, you are blissful and radiant. There is this absolute radiance which is pouring through your being right now. That is the truth. If that radiance wasn't there, every cell in your body would turn black and be dead. Your body would fall to the floor. There is this wonderful, radiant, vibrant aliveness pouring through you in this moment. It is your very nature. It is the nature of this world. So to live a happy life, we need to get in touch with this direct experience of our divinity. Again, which is spacious, peaceful, vibrant, alive, blissful, and empowered. Now, my teacher, in reference to this experience of power, he calls it a mountain of emptiness. It's an unshakability, an immovability. And to use Sri Aurobindo's words, an immovability. To know directly who and what you are. And to never allow someone else on this planet who is neurotic, who is wounded, who is jaded, to define us through their skewed and confused way of seeing. Now, so many people come to me and they tell me I'm suffering so greatly because my parents never took care of me, because they see me as no good, because they wanted me to be this or that. You know, my father, he wanted me to be a soldier. What's funny is I do have a very much a warrior-like nature within me. But, you know, in a silly way, I have the divine warrior, not the army soldier. I'm comfortable with army soldiers, but I don't have that within me. I don't have it within me to go off to war and shoot people I don't know. But I do have it within me to stand up for my truth, to fight for my divinity. And by that I mean fighting for my divinity means I'm choosing to actively seek to discover my divinity in every aspect of myself and countless layers of my being. To go forward into the darkness, to go forward into sadness, into anger, into jealousy, into greed, within myself, within my humanity, within the collective consciousness, and to discover instead the beauty and divinity which is truly there, and to let go of these other things, these things which were given to me by others. And so to be happy, you have to know yourself. You have to trust in yourself. You have to have faith in yourself. And you have to know, just have to discover this in a deep way. Who and what I am is absolutely good, absolutely divine. And if there's any part of you that doesn't know that, you will be unhappy in that very place. And so how do we discover this within us? Is through becoming quiet and directly experiencing our true nature. And for some people, when they become quiet, they experience the pain of their being. They experience the sadness, the woundedness, the brokenness. They experience heartache. I know so many people right now who are experiencing these things. Sometimes when I open my heart to the pain in the world, I almost feel overwhelmed by the pain and the sadness and the suffering. But the truth is we cannot be overwhelmed. For that which we are is greater than the pain, greater than the struggle, greater than the suffering. And how do we know that? Because we outlive every experience we ever have. We outlive every moment of heartbreak. We outlive every moment of sadness. We outlive every moment of suffering. And there is something here which is greater, this space of awareness, which is experiencing the suffering, experiencing the heartache, which is experiencing the brokenheartedness. If there's something here which can experience brokenheartedness, it must mean that that thing is greater than the brokenheartedness. Because the brokenheartedness, it arises in the space of awareness. It arises within the space of our consciousness, so we are always greater than that which we are experiencing. Now, it doesn't mean that the experience cannot be intense. We can have very intense experiences. I have many intense experiences, oftentimes throughout the day, of pain, of sadness, of whatever it is. Oftentimes when I'm sitting with an individual, I feel all of their pain. Yet because I'm rooted in my true nature, I know that what I am is greater than that, that this is an experience that is coming and going. And so in order to not be overwhelmed, in order to not be, to fall into despair, we must discover this power within us, this inherent indestructibility. And I know I say this often, but the way we discover that in our inherent indestructibility is through sitting with pain and just watching it burn. Sitting with heartache and watching it burn. Sitting with heartache and allowing it to break our heart open. To have a cry, to shed some tears, to shake, to tremble, and to realize, oh, this did not kill me. It just helped me to realize that which I am. It opened me to a greater world of compassion, a greater world of strength and unity, a greater world of surrender. And so I thought we might end tonight just with a short meditation. And so I invite you just to close your eyes, just to come into your body. Just to feel a sense of innocence. That's this very basic sense of innocence, which hears my voice right now. If you feel into the innocence, you just notice this very subtle aliveness, very subtle radiance. You may even feel a brightness in the space you call your mind. So I invite you just to open into that. Open into that brightness, open into that radiance. And so I encourage you to feel this radiance, to experience this radiance throughout your body. I encourage you just to allow your shoulders to drop, allow your jaw to relax, allow your throat and neck to relax, allow your belly and pelvic floor to relax. And can you begin to feel, begin to experience, begin to open to this quiet sense of radiance, this quiet sense of divinity and aliveness? Feel this radiance all around you. And so I invite you also to include your environment, the room you're in, the chair or couch or floor you're seated upon, the sounds arising and falling in the background. You have a sense of including everything, including all the sensations in your body, all the feelings. Of course, if there's any thoughts in your mind, you allow the thoughts to come and allow them to go, without fighting with them, without resisting them. If there's emotion within you, you allow the emotion to come and go. Allow sensations to come and go. Yet simultaneously, you're opening to this space of radiance, this space of divinity. You're allowing this aliveness to wake up in your feet, your legs, your pelvis, your belly, your chest, your back, your arms, your hands, your throat, your neck, the space you call your mind. It's inviting all the chakras to come into alignment, allowing all of them to light up with a heavenly grace, a heavenly light. And so we're just taking a couple more moments just to notice our divinity, to notice our radiance, to give ourselves permission to fall in love with our own divinity, to fall in love with our own goodness and wonder. To experience this very childlike innocence. And of course, if there's any aspect of you which is holding back, I invite you to simply to offer that up to God, to life, to the universe. And say, dear one, will you take this struggle from me? Will you lead me and guide me to something greater, something more wonderful? Will you help this greater aspect of self, this higher consciousness, to give birth right here in form, in my daily life? Will you allow this higher consciousness to give birth in the places where I struggle and resist, the places where I'm still angry or confused or hurting? God, will you help me to let go of this struggle and to live in greater alignment with your way, with your will, in alignment with our greater life plan, our greater life purpose. And so I invite you to take one more deep breath and just allow that struggle just to release from you. And then we'll just take a moment, just allowing our light to shine out to the world, touching those we love, touching those in our immediate town and community, letting it to spread throughout our country, our place in the world. And then allowing it to spread out to all those who we have difficulty with, who we struggle with. Just have a sense of sending them love, sending them light, sending them compassion. May everyone, all beings in this world, be blessed with love and light and happiness and joy. May we all continue to come together and live in a higher unity, a higher grace, a higher manifestation of the truth. So I want to thank you all for joining me this evening. I wish you all happy holidays, a happy solstice. And spend some time in silence. Spend some time just curled up on a couch, reading a book, going on quiet walks. Spend some time loving up friends and family and reaching out to those maybe who need a friend, maybe those who need some love, helping a neighbor, even a stranger. So thank you all so much for joining me. If you feel moved to, you can visit my website and look for upcoming events and information about scheduling a session, or if you'd like to offer a donation for tonight's class, that's very helpful and it's very supportive of me and my work. So thank you so much, and thank you for joining me. As always, I feel deeply honored to be able to spend this time with you, and take good care.